Now, Sports Talk with Brodes. Here's Hunter Brody.
What is going on, everyone? Welcome to Sports Talk with Brodes. It never will end. I am convinced this Philadelphia Eagles drama will go on until I'm 83 years old, if I'm lucky. It's nonsense. Every day, it's a new story. Every day, there's a new source. Every day, there's more national media attention, although that's getting a little bonkers. You have people like Greeny saying that Carson Wentz is a problem for not being dressed with his teammates, as if that's not a coaching decision, as if that wasn't Doug Pederson and the front office members coming together saying, hey, you know what? We're going to sit you down, Carson Wentz, for the last game of the season, and you're going to be an inactive. I mean, some of this national media talk is getting too aggressive, in my opinion. But look, it moves the needle. It's Philadelphia. There's a big market, and this is the most ridiculous franchise in the entire NFL right now. They are making headlines because they are egregious as one. This is putrid. I feel I am living in a nightmare. Here's the difference. The difference between actually being in a nightmare and reality. When you're getting chased by the guy that has the chainsaw who eventually catches you and slices your head off, what happens? You gasp, and you wake up. I don't think that's happening. I guess your gasping moment in real life would be when there's a fresh regime, where there's a new voice, when there's a new identity involved. But guess what? I don't see that happening anytime soon. As Adam Schefter reported, it is expected that Doug Pederson will return. He also said that there's going to be a meeting between Jeffrey Lurie and Doug Pederson on Tuesday. So I guess we need to wait and see. But here's my theory. Considering this organization trotted out Doug Pederson and Howie Roseman to the media on Monday in a Zoom press conference, I can't imagine after doing that they would can him. As if they knew, if Jeffrey Lurie knew that they were going to move on from Doug Pederson, why the hell would he be up there answering a bunch of questions about what they're going to do with the quarterback and what they're going to do moving forward? It would make no sense. Although, here's the counter. None of this makes sense. And if there's one organization that would do that, it would be this one. But I fully expect Doug Pederson and Howie Roseman both to be here. As you see, Howie's already starting to toy around with some contracts. Alshon Jeffrey, Malik Jackson to create more cap space, which is one of the reasons why I said he needs to stay. He needs to be here. You can argue that maybe John Dorsey should have more say and more power in terms of personnel and drafts, but Howie Roseman knows the salary cap. Howie Roseman knows the tweaks and the maneuvers to manipulate the cap. Whether you like it or not, he does. And with where they are right now financially, his skill set is needed. It's almost mandatory. So I'm not screaming for Howie to get his ass out of town. I think he needs to be here, but his role needs to be limited. We'll see what ends up happening, but I definitely want to start off with what Jeff McLane wrote in the Philadelphia Inquirer. And before we get to that, we are broadcasting live, as always, from the Manscaped Man Cave. Get 20% off and free shipping with the code BROD at manscaped.com. So I'll just read you a little bit of what he wrote in this Inquirer piece. And look, everybody knows that Jeff McLane and Doug Pederson and this entire Eagles franchise, they don't get along. They don't see eye to eye. Jeff McLane is willing to write controversial pieces, let's say. So take it for what it is, but I think that there is some value in what he put out there. So I'll give you a little bit. It's nothing crazy. It's nothing too long. I'll hit on the key parts. That's my reading cough. My reading, let's clear the throat. When Doug Pederson pulled Jalen Hurts for Nate Sudfeld early in the fourth quarter in Sunday's season finale against Washington, many Eagles players and coaches were shocked and outraged, team sources told the Inquirer. Some were angry. Two defensive players had to be held back from approaching Pederson. Center Jason Kelce and another offensive starter went to the coach to ask him why he had pulled the starting quarterback with the Eagles trailing by only 3. Hurts was distraught as well. Even though he had been told Wednesday that there was a chance Sudfeld could play, he couldn't understand why Pederson would make the switch. It goes on to say how Doug Pederson mentioned after the game he wanted to get Sudfeld some time. But on Monday in his press conference, he kind of contradicted himself by stating the offense couldn't really move the ball, as if maybe Nate Sudfeld actually could. What a joke. Some Eagles staffers still weren't sure what was behind Pederson's decision a day later, although most speculated it had to do with the draft pick. Some speculated that most wouldn't have cared had Pederson communicated his plans to the team or publicly stated his intentions. But the way it unfolded left a bitter taste in many of the Eagles' mouths, and they felt embarrassed. There was another line that definitely stood out to me that I must have skipped over right here. Wait. Oh, here it is. In many cases, Eagles players and assistants had no inclination that Sudfeld was part of the offensive game plan. And if they did, they figured it had been abandoned because of the tight score. So after the game was over on my post-game podcast, I brought up Doug Pederson is good at essentially nothing except for one thing, and that's keeping the locker room together. That's having the troops rally around him. That's motivating the fellas. That's making sure everyone wants to play for Doug Pederson. I'm not claiming that this specific move automatically erases all of that power that he holds from the coaching standpoint. But is this something that starts the decline? Is this something that now is in the back of everybody's minds? I think we all have someone in our life that has done something in the past that upsets us or disappointed us, where every time we see that individual, you might be over that certain scenario, but it's still in the back of your mind. You can never flush that down the toilet and pretend it never happened. It's always there. This might be that for Doug Pederson and the culture. There's a few different ways to look at this. Well, we'll start here. 2 defensive players had to be held back from approaching Pederson. To what degree? Were they angrily going after him, ready to punch him in the face? Absolutely not. And I know that some are saying, well, why wasn't there any coverage on this? If that happened, why wasn't there any cameras on the sidelines? Or why isn't anybody else reporting this news? Well, I think that's where you have to dissect it a little deeper and think a little bit stronger here. What does that necessarily mean? 2 defensive players had to be held back. Hey, no reason to go to Doug Pederson right now. We'll talk to him later about it. It could be as simple as that, and that's technically being held back. So to what level? Because when you initially read it, I think, at least the way I interpret it is, what do you mean? As if people were going after Doug Pederson? Well, no, it doesn't mean to that level. Let's take a deep breath here, Brodes. And once I did that, I was like, okay, hold on a second. There's many different ways that you can be held back, but it's so obvious. The moral of the story is that the team was not happy. A lot of those players on the field, though, are irrelevant. A lot of those players on the field are not going to be involved in this organization for a long period of time. And if they are, they're not going to be some significant role. So what players were doing it? If it's Arnold on the defensive side of the football, then I don't think the Eagles should give a damn. And a lot of the players that have power didn't even play. Now, some did. Some guys were out there battling. Darius Slay was out there. Brandon Graham. Some of those guys were legitimately in the trenches going to work. So if it was a Darius Slay, if it was a Brandon Graham, the defense kept the team in the game. So I feel these defensive players, they have a little bit of substance behind them. Yo, Doug, we're out here kicking our own asses. We're out here doing all the dirty work, and you're just going to quit on us? That's a joke. So they have validity to what they're saying. It just depends who it is. But Mike Gill and I were talking about this on the Sports Bash on 97.3. When next season begins, do you think anybody gives a damn about Week 17? When have you ever anticipated a new season and got all excited for a new season and then went back to what happened in Week 17 in a useless game, in a useless season? Well, that never happens. Everyone's excited. Everyone's juiced up. The players are excited to go to camp. They're willing to go to the NovaCare complex. They can't wait to prove to themselves and to the teammates and to everybody else, all the outside noise, that they can play. that they can do something special. So when does the end of the previous season ever really translate to the new fresh season? And that's fair, but it comes down to the veteran guys. And not only that, this quarterback in Jalen Hurts, if he's your guy moving forward, I think there's a little bit of disappointment involved. You're already disappointing the guy you're potentially moving forward with. We all speculated that this was a franchise decision. They discussed this. Howie, Doug, Lori, we're going to have a game where it's somewhat of a preseason finale. I feel we have to put this out on the table. Could this have been Doug Pederson just not being smart? Doug Pederson is not a smart individual when it comes to football decisions. Can we all be clear on that? I don't think that there's many who are going to disagree with that statement. He makes horrendous decisions in-game. He always loses his game plan when the game gets into the thick of things. He's not a good thinker on his feet. So when you see Doug, could it possibly be that he was so unaware that this could have been possible? As if he doesn't truly recognize what type of message this would send, he just sees it as Nate Sudfeld needs some tape. Nate Sudfeld, I'm trying to help out my third-string quarterback so he can maybe survive in this league. I don't think he realized that it was possible he would throw up on himself and get to the point where you essentially got your boy out of the league, because now he is known as the guy who was put in the Eagles game on national television, and it was known and targeted as you were trying to lose on purpose. That's the narrative now behind Nate Sudfeld. And I bring that up because Doug Pederson was a backup quarterback. He understands what it's like. So he possibly, just in player mode, could have looked at Nate Sudfeld, a guy who has never played, the guy who barely gets any time, trying to help him out a bit, and he's not fully processing all of the information and all of the results that can possibly happen. And this is not just a Doug Pederson issue. This is an organizational issue because it dates back to the Jalen Hurts pick. Oh, I would have never imagined we were here. How many times have we heard that so far this season? Oh, we could have never imagined. If you put ourselves back in that draft room when we were looking at the draft board, I would have never seen us in this spot with Carson and Jalen. Well, that's part of the issue. So it's almost as if we're giving Doug Pederson too much credit by saying, well, this was obviously something he was told. And look, it could be that way. Of course it could be, because he doesn't have much power. But I can't pretend that Doug couldn't make a poor decision on his own just being Doug Pederson. I don't know if that message that he sent could have been so strong to retire Jason Kelce, but just the fact that it's even a minor possibility is concerning. Every year we talk about Jason Kelce returning or not returning. He just came out with one of the most passionate speeches to the media about what it means to play in this league. That is winning culture. What you do here, it's not winning culture. And I don't like what the Giants are saying and Joe Judge. What a loser. I mean, the guy was under the Bill Belichick tree who has been known to cheat in so many different circumstances. That's okay. But, oh, I would never do that. See, this is why that's a flawed mindset. And I didn't like it at the time, and still now. I didn't like the optics of it, but I understood why they would want the 6th pick instead of the 9th pick. Not just about if they want to draft there, but if they want to trade down, how much more substance do you get? The package is way heavier and heftier. It's a no-brainer why you would do that. Here's why I don't get the integrity of the game. That quote, that integrity of the game sentence or phrase, that doesn't sit well with me, because Andy Reid, he didn't play all the top guys week 17. Why? Well, they're in the playoffs. But integrity of the game, right? Well, they weren't putting out their full guys to try and win and give you that 60-minute effort to really go out there and give you everything. Big Ben didn't play for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Do you see this? Do you see the issue here? Their integrity of the game wasn't the same. The Jacksonville Jags and the Jets, like, they wanted to lose throughout. So I'm not defending the optics of it. You went about it the wrong way. It's just that simple. They did it in such a poor way. But losing a game and not putting out your full product in week 17, that's been a thing around the league all over the place for many, many years, for many, many decades. So this whole, they're a loser mentality with this football game and this and that. Look, I do think that it is, the way they went about it is a loser mentality. Don't get me wrong. I can't stand the way that it's getting framed, though, because of the integrity of football. Say that to Andy Reid. Say that to Mike Tomlin. Keep it 100. There are reasons to criticize this football team, and I heavily did that post-game, and I still will. But you got to do it the right way. You can't get outrageous with this. But I get Joe Judge. New York Giants hates the Philadelphia Eagles, trying to send a tough message to his team. His message was so more about what it says to his team. As a good head coach would do, he worries about the message to the team. Somehow, some way, with this one with Doug P, that slipped through the cracks. He wasn't properly worried about that in this one, which is kind of crazy to me. So we have some anytime hotline calls. We also have this Carson Wentz not speaking to the media drama, and that does bother me because I think that he had an opportunity to somewhat lessen the blow. There's so much turmoil right now when it comes to where this franchise is. The fractured relationship. You not saying anything almost says there's something really going on here. He could have, and even if he goes up there and lies, that's fine. But I think he needs to show his face. Running away from the media, I don't love that. You have an opportunity to stand up in front of everyone. You know what questions are coming. You know what's going to happen. Look, there was a report by Mortensen. What do you feel about this? And Doug Pederson's selling you garbage. Doug Pederson's giving you crap. He's saying our relationship is fine. I see no issue with Carson Wentz and I. Even though we understand that, yeah, there is something happening, but he's giving you that. Carson, just stand up. And I know that his agent is probably saying the best thing to do right now is say nothing. There's no positives that can come out of it, only negatives. You could slip up. You can maybe say the wrong thing. I mean, if you lie and you just say everything's fine, nobody's going to believe you and you're just going to get ripped to shreds anyway. So I'm just looking at it from a standpoint of, hey, your agent is talking to you. What's the benefits? What's the pros? What's the cons? I can see why they did it, but I would have liked to see him stand up there, show his face, and acknowledge what's going on. Howie, Doug, they were asked about the fractured relationship. We haven't spoke about it. How have you not spoken about it, right? This just adds to it. That's how you pick all the puzzle pieces together, you start putting it as one, and it's framing the issue right here for you. That, yeah, it is a thing. This all is absolutely 100% a major issue between the two. There's no getting back together, and that's why when you hear the news that it's expected Doug Pederson returns, you would have to imagine that somehow, some way, Carson Wentz is not going to be a part of the Philadelphia Eagles moving forward. There's no way that it can be both. The way that it seems right now is it's one or the other. When there were rumors about Ben Simmons being available for James Harden, what did we hear the same night? Daryl Morey tweeting away saying this is not true. Doc Rivers saying he picked up the phone and told Ben Simmons that that's not a reality. Don't worry about it. We love you here. You're a part of this team. We expect big things out of you. We're going to go far because of your play and what you bring to the table for this basketball team. You got none of that. You got everybody running away from one another. The communication is so damn poor here. And even when it comes to what happened on Sunday, some speculated that most wouldn't have cared had Pederson actually communicated his plans to the team. If you're going to go with the Nate Sudfeld game, go with the Nate Sudfeld game. If he was going to start the game and then that's what you're trotting out there, I don't think it's even the same conversation. But because you plan to do it in the fourth quarter in a 3-point game, what are you trying to do? Nate Sudfeld blows. Nate Sudfeld's a very bad football player. The offense wasn't moving, so you were going to try and get something going. Jalen Hurts was 7 of 20. That's garbage. He was not good at all. But that doesn't justify bringing in Nate Sudfeld. The fact that Jalen Hurts still gives you the best opportunity playing the way that he did tells you everything to know, everything you need to know about where Nate Sudfeld is in the NFL. I mean, there were some trying to justify the move by saying, Brodes, did you see what Jalen Hurts was doing? He had to try something new. No. I'm a better option than Nate Sudfeld. You're a better option than Nate Sudfeld. My mother is a better option than Nate Sudfeld. My biggest fear, well, it's not even really a fear, it's a reality, but one of my biggest concerns is how unaware this front office is of what's going on. I don't think they see how they are viewed. With all of this attention, with everyone drilling this team, every time you turn on the television, what logo is appearing on that screen? It's the Philadelphia Eagles. And somehow, some way, they're blind. Now, how is that possible? Well, it shows that they're just inept. It shows that they just don't properly have it together. And I don't think it's as simple as they can snap their fingers and it's all fixed. Howie Roseman said that they have a process that works. They have a process that has been successful. Sometimes you have bad years. It's been more than just a bad year, dude. This is not just a, hey, it all happened this season. The only reason why you're a 4-win team is because it just magically happened this year. No, this is a cumulative thing. This is poor drafting for years and years and years. It's one big snowball effect. He's trying to make excuses. Well, COVID-19 isn't an excuse, but it gave us this mentality of we should go with veteran guys because, well, we have a coaching staff that was in place compared to everybody else in this division that had a new regime. Well, how did that work out for you? It backfired. It was a bad philosophy. You screwed up. And then add that to everything else that you messed up. I mean, it's just atrocious stuff. Before we take some anytime hotline calls, I think this is a great time to hear from my sponsor, DraftKings. Playoffs. You want to talk about playoffs? Yes, that's right. Football's playoffs start this weekend, and there's no better place to get in on all the action than with DraftKings Sportsbook, America's top-rated sportsbook app. If you haven't checked out the app yet, there's no better time to sign up and start cashing in. DraftKings Sportsbook is giving all new players a deposit bonus up to $1,000 when signing up using promo code BRODES. DraftKings Sportsbook has endless ways for you to bet, from live betting to betting on your favorite players. They do it all. Check out the DraftKings Sportsbook app every day this week to cash in on their daily odds boost. New boosts are posted every single day for all of their biggest sporting events. Download the top-rated DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use promo code BRODES when you sign up and get up to $1,000. That's code BRODES to get a deposit bonus up to $1,000 for a limited time only at DraftKings Sportsbook. Must be 21 or older. Pennsylvania. Only in partnership with Meadows Racetrack and Casino. Bonus comprised of a first deposit bonus. Deposit bonus requires 25 times playthrough. Restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Yeah, it's just been a horrendous time for me as of late when it comes to this team. Let's hear from the people. You know me, I'm a man of the people. What did you think of how this game played out?
This game felt very weird. I wasn't sure if it was because of potentially Ertz's last game or, various players' last game or just that we were just not good. And, to all the people that want to jump off this ship or, not really want to ride with this team, this is a commitment. This is a lifetime membership. And if you don't want to stay on this team, then just hop off of it, because I'm not about to hear all this, oh, well, you're not a true fan. You know what? Stick with this team through thick and thin, all right? That's what makes you a true fan of this team. I'm tired of all these people jumping on the bandwagon of, oh, I'm bullying for Carson Wentz, or, oh, I'm bullying here because Jalen Hurts plays. Don't give me that. Whoever's under center, be happy with it. And I'm tired of hearing all this Hurts versus Wentz, all right? Let's just watch Eagles play ball.
Wow. All right, so I get it from a quarterback perspective. I support your logic with the quarterback. It shouldn't be, oh, I'm only a Wentz fan, I'm only a Hurts fan. That does bother me. That doesn't make sense. I don't give a damn who's under center. I want the team to succeed. But in terms of supporting this nonsense, I think you can still be a great fan and not support this garbage. This is atrocious. This doesn't deserve support. You can still be a great fan, a very strong fan, a smart fan, to step aside from this and say, I'm not willing to support all of this. This is egregious. This is unacceptable. When people do things that are not solid and when they make poor decisions, they are held accountable. As a fan base, I think that we deserve to hold them accountable. And how would you do that? Well, you don't support them as strong as you would when they put great products on the field, when they are clicking on all cylinders. So I'm with you with the quarterback stuff. I do think it's silly to say if the Eagles were rocking and rolling and playing well, but Jalen Hurts was the quarterback and you're salty about Carson Wentz and you want to go support whatever team he's on, well, yeah, that's a fraud, right? I mean, that's silly. That's just a horrendous way to view sports. But this is an entirely new conversation. I like your passion. I like your mindset. I do think we need to tweak it a little bit. Unless you agree with me, and if you had the possibility right now to have a discussion, some dialogue, you would acknowledge that you understand where I'm coming from. Maybe your message came across the wrong way, but that's the way I interpreted it. I love the phone call. That's a hell of a way to start things off, without a doubt.
Yes, I actually rooted for us to lose this evening. What Doug Pederson did this evening was absolutely unacceptable and disgraceful as a sports fan and to every single player on that field. You don't deliberately try to lose a game, especially when it's close going into the fourth quarter. That's insulting to us as a fan base. Doug Pederson deserves to be fired after that. I don't care if he won a Super Bowl 3 years ago. He needs to be fired, and we need to do a lot of things. He absolutely disgraced Jim Schwartz's West effort, and he disgraced Jalen Hurts this evening. Doug Pederson needs to be fired. End of story.
Wow, pretty hard on that take. Wants Doug Pederson out of town. You and a bunch of other guys. Sadly, as much as I just rip apart and destroy this individual every single damn day, I still think he deserves a shot at it, even though I see a lot of intangibles that scare me and concern me. There has been successful times as well, so, I can't just pretend like that's not a reality, and I'll continue to rip this guy into pieces. It's hard to be that aggressively open with your game plan. There were so many ways to do it. Seriously, think about it from this way. Imagine if they just started Nate Sudfeld. What are you going to complain about? Teams did this all around the league. Jalen Hurts was your starter at that point. He started how many games before? So he has been your starter. Nate Sudfeld is going to the backup quarterback. You don't want to get Jalen Hurts injured. You have a big quarterback controversy incoming the next season. It's pretty easy to defend the logic if you just started Nate Sudfeld. Throwing Nate Sudfeld out there to begin the game is still tanking. It's still the same outcome, but it doesn't look the same way. It's the optics, and this team doesn't properly understand the way that they are viewed. They don't understand that their perception of them is trash because of what they do, and they don't know how to get back on track. They don't know how to turn the page and get everybody viewing them again as a stable franchise. They have been known to be that forever. Not forever, but a long period of time. Because there were some ugly Chip Kelly errors, moving Howie Roseman to the back, bringing him back. And just that, I mean, think about how funky that is alone. In what universe is there a GM that gets kicked to a closet in the NovaCare complex, and then when Chip Kelly leaves, hey, come on back. Don't worry about what we just did to you. That's not a thing. That's never happened. No one does that. What does Howie Roseman have that Jeffrey Lurie is just so unwilling to look in another direction? And once again, I'm not talking about fully. I'm not talking about 100% because his skill set is needed right now. But the love affair between the two is getting to a point that makes me a little bit uncomfortable. Make some damn changes, please. Bring in new guys that know what they're doing from a talent evaluation standpoint. Because when you look at Howie Roseman's track record, how many Pro Bowlers did he draft? 1. Who's he trying to get out of town? That 1 Pro Bowler. So what do you have to show? How about that nonsense he tried to sell us? Carson Wentz is like a finger on hands. What? It's like fingers on a hand? What does that even mean? What are you trying to say? Oh, it's egregious. Listen to these two buffoons hanging out on the Zoom call. These two losers. Oh, it's defeating me. If you can't tell, I am so lost. I am numb. I am numb to the pain. I think we all are, though, right? I think that's reasonable to say. We're all sort of numb to this nonsense.
First game of the season, I definitely called a 4 to 5 win team, and I feel like some of the veterans on our team might have felt the same way, just judging by the previous season as well, and the play calling. And if we see it, I'm sure they see it. I don't know how you feel about that, but hopefully these veterans haven't given up on this coach if he sticks around, and we're going to have to deal with this negative situation again next year. So, yeah, let me know how you feel. Thanks.
I'm going to push back a little bit on that. Entering the season, they were not a 4-win team. Injuries played a big role. And if injuries were not in play, they might have been a 7-win team. You know, you could see Deshaun Jackson, the impact he had on one football game. If Deshaun Jackson could stay healthy, it's a different story. You can counter that point by saying Deshaun Jackson gets hurt every year at this point. He's an older veteran. To rely on him is silly because he's going to get banged up. The nature of his age is that's going to happen. Fine. The offensive line, though, Brandon Brooks, Lane Johnson, all of that occurring. 14 combinations, was it, in the 16 games? That's never happened. That's NFL record type stuff. So I don't think this team was a 4-win team entering the season. They could have been a 7-win team, which unfortunately would have won this division and gave this franchise a different outlook. Oh, look, we made the playoffs again in another straight year, which would have been such a fluky mentality, but they probably would have tried to sell us that. The injuries played a role in this. I mentioned the sports bash earlier. Gil and I were transitioning that conversation to the injury side of things, and he thinks if you were healthy on the O-line alone, you get a bunch more wins, which is funny because my big debate with him was Carson Wentz was the biggest issue. Carson Wentz was so garbage and so pathetic. He was the reason. And my argument was if you get pieces around him that's different, you will have a different outcome. And it was funny because he mentioned if your offensive line is just healthy, just your offensive line, if you had Lane Johnson, Brandon Brooks on that right side of the line, you could have had a bunch more wins, maybe 2-3 more wins, which would have got you in the postseason. And I said, touche, Mike Gill, because I have been saying if pieces around Wentz were better, you probably would have had better quarterback play, resulting in better wins. Right? I mean, that's the way I've been saying it all year long. So I think 4-win team entering the season, no. As bad as everyone has been, they were not a 4-win team entering the season. Injuries, I think, was big with that.
You could tell we was clearly not trying. It was a horrible game. I fell asleep. It was boring. Plus, Chris Collinsworth is commentating. So, you already know it's going to be boring. But unlike some other fans, I'm not mad about tanking. You know, I'm a Sixers fan, so we've been doing it. We did it for the past, 8 years. And, a lot of people are mad at us, especially Giants fans, and we're not worried about them because we still got a top 6 pick. And, we hardly draft in the top 10. So, might as well get a good player out of college, see if we could develop them. But, the way how we draft, we might draft some punter from community college or something like that.
That's incredible. That's awesome. I love that. Developing? What's that? Seriously, outside of the offensive line, this organization has struggled to develop a lot of players. Now, Zach Ertz has become one hell of a special player, but let's seriously look at things. Dallas Goddard. I like Dallas Goddard. Has he really shown an insane amount of improvement? Now, it's hard to really tell based off of the quarterback play this year. I think he's a good player. He obviously has an awesome skill set. Have you seen a big jump in his game, or have you seen Dallas Goddard? I just feel like this has been Dallas Goddard. Nothing insanely stands out to me. Wide receiver position. I heard someone make the argument, well, Greg Ward. Okay, Greg Ward. That's not enough to really push it. You have to draft guys and develop them into Pro Bowl material type guys. That's what you need to develop them into. Greg Ward is your standard little slot receiver guy. You don't win because of Greg Ward. He's got a role. You need slot receivers. I'm not downplaying what he is, but I'm talking developing. Transforming someone into a game-changing player. I'll wait. Guess what? There really is no one outside of the offensive line. They always do well with the offensive line. It's great. Not knocking them for it. But you got to have skill guys. You got to have playmakers on both sides of the football. They just don't do it. They don't do it. They don't develop after the draft. But we keep changing coaches year in and year out. Wide receiver coach this year, wide receiver coach the next year. This guy's moving on, the next guy's moving on. I mean, there's got to be a common denominator at some point, right?
This team has nothing. They showed that they are absolute garbage. They came out with no fight. Doug was somehow still in a game that meant nothing to everything up. How do you not go for a field goal in that range? I'm just blown away by how many chances we had to win this game, and they still somehow managed to blow it.
Well, that's because they didn't want to win, right? I mean, they blew it because their intentions were, let's lose this game on purpose. So it's hard for me to really question in-game decisions when we knew the mentality was, I don't want to win. So they made poor decisions on purpose, which is bad, don't get me wrong, but that's why the field goal did not happen. That's why some of those play calls were what they were. I want to touch on this before we end the show. Jalen Hurts was in front of the media the other day, and he talked about how much of a coachable player he is, and he talked about a competitor. I just wonder, is he taking a shot at Carson Wentz? We want Carson Wentz to say that. We want Carson Wentz to be that guy. We want Carson Wentz to say everything Jalen Hurts just said. Was he reading the room? Was he understanding this city? Or is he just a coach's son? Because he gives you a lot of these gimmicky answers sometimes about, the coffee bean and the sun shining and all this. He's giving you these metaphors and these sayings that just screams, yeah, he's prepared for this, but it was almost like he was taught to do this by, his upbringings, and that's what he was always informed to do. So I'm just questioning, is he taking shots at Carson? I'm a competitor. Because everyone was saying, I want my quarterback to compete. He's asking for a trade. Get him out of here. Well, he's hearing that. He's seeing that. Oh, I'm a coachable guy. But what are we hearing about Doug Pederson? Or excuse me, what are we hearing about Carson Wentz with Doug Pederson? He's not coachable. So something smells a little fishy when it comes to what Jalen Hurts was saying. And when we had Jeff Mosher on for Football at 4, we talked about Carson Wentz's personality. And that's been a hot topic, and it was mentioned about the stubbornness. And when we mentioned the stubbornness, Moshe had this tone in his voice, and he was like, yes, he's stubborn, yes. Acknowledging with a strong tone in his voice that there is clearly a personality stubborn issue with the quarterback position. Now, that's not breaking news. We've heard that. But a lot of guys are stubborn. You don't think Tom Brady's stubborn? I'm not comparing Carson Wentz to Tom Brady. I'm just looking at the mentality of things. Being stubborn sometimes is a good thing from a competitive standpoint. As if, you believe in yourself so much, this is what got me. This is why I'm here. This is my skill set. This is what I do. Now, you got to tweak things at times. You got to be adjustable. You got to make adjustments all around. But being stubborn isn't necessarily some horrible thing when it comes to a competitor standpoint. There's a fine line, and he might be going over that line. I think sometimes it gets taken way too far out of line. All right, that's what we have for you today. Do not forget about my friends over at Orbit Energy and Power. With over 20 years of experience, they are home to your solar experts. Their solar program helps eliminate your electric bill completely. They provide water purification systems, backup energy services, battery storage, and more. So check out their information. It's all down below in the description. Thank you so much for listening, and I will see you next time.